Namaste class, welcome. So today we're starting the first part of Unit 7 from your paper, Counseling and Family Therapy, and the topic is family dynamics. Now this is a subject that doesn't just live in textbooks, right? It breathes in our homes, in all of our lives, every single day. We're going to try and understand how relationships in our families are formed, how they're changing, and most importantly, why it's so crucial for you as future counselors to know this. All right, let's dive in.
But before we go any further, I want to start with a question for you. Think about this for a second. What are your family's unspoken rules? You know, those things that aren't written down anywhere, but everyone just knows. Maybe it's no phones at the dinner table, or you don't raise your voice in front of elders. Just think about it. What are the rules in your home? We'll come back to this.
So what is this term, family dynamics, anyway? I know it sounds a little bit complex, a little academic, but the truth is we live it every single day. You could almost call it the operating system of any family.
So if we were to put a formal definition to it, family dynamics are basically the patterns of how we relate to each other. And these patterns are shaped by our daily interactions. But here's the most interesting part. These patterns don't exist in a vacuum. They are a mirror, a reflection of the culture and the society that we live in.
And this slide really shows just how much culture matters. Take a place like Sweden, for instance. The government provides a lot of financial support, so the focus is much more on the individual. Now compare that to India, where the family is the primary support system, not just emotionally but financially too. This completely changes the expectations and, of course, the dynamics within the family.
Okay, so let's get specific and talk about the Indian context. Traditionally, our society has been very hierarchical and, well, patriarchal. And because of this structure, certain clear but often unspoken rules about power, respect, and roles get established.
To understand this better, let's look at a case study. This is Purvi. She's 16 years old, and her story is a perfect example of how these traditional dynamics can affect someone's life on a very personal level.
This quote, it really says it all, doesn't it? Purvi constantly felt this pressure to behave in a certain correct way, to suppress her own desires. And what was the result? She started drifting away from her own mother. See, this isn't just her personal problem. It's a symptom of the system she's a part of. So if we break down Purvi's situation, 3 things become crystal clear. First, the gender role expectation. Be submissive, learn the household chores. Second, the age and hierarchy, a very strict, protective relationship with her mother. And third, layering on top of all of that is this huge societal pressure, which is causing a constant conflict inside her.
Now, let's look at a completely different family structure. This is Ela. She's a working professional and a single mother. Her situation represents a growing reality in modern India, and it comes with its own set of new and unique challenges.
Ela's concern is something I think we can all understand. After the divorce, her son has become withdrawn. Her challenge isn't traditional like Purvi's. Her challenge is navigating the emotional impact of a changing family unit while also balancing her professional life.
When we analyze Ila's case, the dynamics are completely different. Her family structure is new. She's experiencing what we call role overload. She's the primary breadwinner and the primary caregiver. Her story shows us how major social shifts create new personal pressures right inside our homes.
You know, looking at Purvi and Ela, one thing is clear. These 2 stories, in a way, represent the 2 biggest fault lines in modern Indian families. On one side, you have the clash between tradition and individual desire, and on the other, the stress of new family structures. Families aren't static. They're constantly being reshaped by external forces.
So what are these forces? Well, first you have globalization and media bringing in new ideas. Then there's urbanization, which is changing the way we live. And perhaps most importantly, increased access to education and economic independence, especially for women, which is rapidly changing the old equations of power and responsibility.
And this change isn't just happening with the younger generation. Look at Kanubai. At 55, circumstances forced him to take on the household responsibilities. His story tells us that change isn't always a choice. Sometimes life just makes us rewrite the rules we've lived by our entire lives.
But, and this is a big but, this process of change is never easy. When our old expectations crash into a new reality, it creates a lot of stress. And this is something you are going to see every single day in your counseling practice. So let's properly understand these stressors. First up is role confusion. This happens when you have to choose between two equally important roles at the exact same time. For example, imagine your mother-in-law is sick, but on the very same day, it's your child's annual day at school. Both roles are important, the duty of a daughter-in-law and the duty of a mother. You can't be in two places at once. That feeling? That's role confusion.
Next, we have role conflict. This one's a bit different. This happens when playing one role makes you feel like you're failing at another. Think of a parent who needs to be strict to maintain discipline, but at a party, they also want to be the fun parent with that same child. That tension between the disciplinarian role and the fun parent role is role conflict.
And finally, there's role strain. This is about the tension among all the different roles connected to a single status. Just think about the status of mother. A mother isn't just a mother. She's a caregiver, a teacher, a nurse, a chef, a disciplinarian. The list is endless. The tension that comes from juggling all of these responsibilities at once, that is role strain.
Shalini's story is heartbreaking, but it's a stark reminder of how powerful role expectations can be. In our society, the responsibility of bearing a child is placed so heavily on women that even though Shalini knew the medical issue was with her husband, she felt incomplete. She internalized a failure that wasn't even hers, which caused immense stress and made her withdraw from everyone.
Okay, so we've covered the theory, we've looked at case studies, we've defined the key stressors. But why is all of this so important for you as future counselors? Why does all of this matter?
Here's the most important thing, and I want you to always remember this. When a client walks into your room, they don't walk in alone. They bring their entire family system in with them. Their behavior, their identity, their stress, it's all connected to those dynamics we've been talking about. You simply cannot help an individual in isolation until you understand the family context they come from.
And with that, I want to leave you with one final question. We've seen that the old rules are changing, they're clashing with new realities. So as we move forward, what new rules, both spoken and unspoken, will we as a society write for our families? What will the Indian family look like in the next generation? Think about that. Thank you.